Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thank you so much for coming in to watch this video. Obviously, Bitcoin today closed at an all-time high. It has not surpassed the all-time high yet. As of recording this, we're only like $400, $500 away from possibly breaching the all-time high, which is fantastic. But on the downside, the miners are going down. So what's going on there? We'll talk about that. I'll give you guys my perspective on it as far as what's happening there. Then we also have a couple stories to talk about here. We have Bitdeer news. They're providing a new ASIC. They're also providing the preliminary results for the Q4 results. And then we also have news from Digihost, production updates for February. And then we have production updates from Terawulf and some news about their partner selling a facility that I don't believe they're a part of that, but we'll talk about that anyways. Guys, we have a lot to go over today. As always, you guys know this is not financial advice, for entertainment only. Please do your own research. I'm investing in the following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. If there's any corrections to be made, we'll get them posted on Discord. And that Discord is obviously through Patreon members, and then YouTube, community posts, Twitter as well. So we'll get it all covered there if we do make any mistakes here, okay? So let's get into what's going on here with the markets really quick. Bitcoin, obviously, like I said, right now is at, well, it closed today at an all-time, well, it didn't close at an all-time high. The highest daily close that we've had here. So Bitcoin closed at 68,360 on the Coinbase market. Looking at that, I think the previous all-time high, or not the all-time, previous highest close, daily close was around 67,000, something we would have to go all the way back here to, 2021. Let's see if we can do that really quick. Let's see here. This was probably right around here, I think. Let's see, where was that? This was, nope, that was 34,000. Now we got to keep going. Going all the way back up to here. And I should have probably had this prepared. Because right now, okay, here we go. So the close here was 45. We're getting closer. Going back up here, 67,554 was the previous all-time high on it. Okay, definitely a nice feat, I guess, to accomplish that we've reached. Well, we didn't reach. We closed at the highest mark here today, but we still have obviously the 69,000 to bypass, and we're having a little hard time here with it right now. We go all the way back. I mean, we're kind of battling with it. We're pretty close to it. We got up to a high of 68,849. So, I mean, within like $200 of breaching that previous all-time high, which would have been fantastic. But on the opposite side, we're seeing that the miners are still going down. So everybody on Twitter, on my YouTube comments, and in Patreon, and in Discord, everybody's, well, not everybody, I would say quite a few people have said, what's going on with the miners? Why are they going down? Bitcoin's rallying, MicroStrategy is rallying as well. And that is all true, but sometimes Bitcoin disconnects from, miners disconnect from Bitcoin sometimes. And we've seen that in previous, even this past year we saw it in July when the miners kind of peaked, then Bitcoin started to kind of go sideways a little bit, then it went up. Miners were lagging, miners were actually going down at that point as well. So there's at times where we have this disconnect between Bitcoin and the miners. The way I look at those type of situations is mainly a buying opportunity, because you just don't know how low you're going to get. And if you're in it for a while, if you're trying to trade it, if you got in just recently within like the last 2-3 weeks or something like that, or even at higher prices, this is kind of painful, right? I got into the miners back in 2022, really hard to get into them. I invested in Hive back in 2017, and I learned the same lesson then. When it's going down, it's painful, but if you dollar cost average into it, you come out on the other side much, much better. So I did that again in 2022, got into CleanSpark, Bitfarms, and then this past year I got into Iris Energy as well. And I dollar cost average down all the way from CleanSpark. I started buying it like $9 all the way down to a low of $2. I think it came down to this past year in 2022 at least. Same thing with Bitfarms, started buying it at around $5, came all the way down to like 40 cents at one point. So I was down like almost 80%, but I continued to dollar cost average in. Was able to buy a heck of a lot more during the bottoms there when it was going really down. And that really helped offset all the different losses that I had. And now I'm actually up close to 400% on CleanSpark. I'm up on Bitfarm still about 100%. That's the main reason behind it, is because dollar cost averaging. And I didn't, obviously it was sad to see the prices going down, but I looked at it in a longer term view where I knew that we're going to have the halving event coming up eventually in the next year or two. We're actually 40 days away right now. But if you have a longer term plan in mind, I think you'll do a lot better than a short term. If you're just trying to get in right now and hit a home run out of the park, it's going to be a lot harder than if you were buying a year ago, right? Prices were much lower back then. And you can still obviously do really well. You can do probably 5x, 10x potentially with some of these miners, but it's going to be obviously more challenging. And as we know, Bitcoin and the miners are very volatile. And then sometimes they disconnect. So my advice is be patient, dollar cost average in if you can, if you're bought higher prices. And then that way you get your prices, your average price down much lower. And then when it does pop, which we expect them to pop, they'll do a lot better at that point. Okay. But if you guys have any questions, hit me up in the comments down below. I'll give you guys all the information that I can on the miners and everything else. And just wanted to kind of point out that this is very volatile. And nothing new that we're not aware of. There's a lot of people that also in the Discord and comments and YouTube and everything else where they were buying at the bottoms of 2022 and into 2023 as well, where they bought much higher, but they dollar cost averaged in. And as long as you have a long-term view, you're going to do just fine. Okay. Short term is going to be painful. Long term is going to be bliss. Okay. So we'll leave it at that. Let's get back into the miners here, see what's going on with those. Miners, for the most part, like I said, were down today. Bitdeer was up a little bit, 1%. Cores was up 6%, and DMG was up 4.5%. Everybody else was down. They started the day out in a much better position than where they are right now. Obviously, in the morning, they were kind of pumping a little bit here, pre-market. In the first, I would say, maybe first hour, 2 hours, they were actually in the green. A lot of them were in the green. And then we started to see this kind of change happening in them, and then they basically finished out the day in the red. So if we look at Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners here, let's go ahead and pull up a chart here where you guys can see. Let's go 1 year out. And we'll just put Marathon on here as a comparison on it. Let's see, Marathon, same as scale. So if you just look out at Marathon and Bitcoin here, you can see that there are times where Marathon rallied, and so did the other stocks as well. And then they, had a huge fall back down. And then the times it rallied, it fell back down, even though nothing much was going on with Bitcoin. It was trading sideways, but some of these miners were going up. Let's maybe add in here as well. CleanSpark for comparison as well. And you can kind of see the same thing happening here with CleanSpark along with Marathon, right? Just recently here, CleanSpark kind of blew up a little bit. But overall, if you look at, let me see if I can get rid of some of the other lines here to make it a little bit maybe easier. I want to turn off all the lines, hide all. There we go. If we make this bigger, you guys can kind of see how Bitcoin is going here throughout the year, right? And we do have this kind of disconnect. Bitcoin's going flat here. Miners were dropping down here. And this was basically, let's see how long of a time frame this is, if I can draw this on here. So miners peaked here. Bitcoin was going flat or down a little bit here. And before things rebounded here, this was basically 74 days, almost 2 months, right? Where we bottomed out a little bit here. And this was basically from July, right? Which I said, July, where we're kind of peaked. Bitcoin's kind of going down or up a little bit here. And then we had a wild time here as well between like October. And you can see here that the miners were still down for a couple trading days here until they started kind of pop a little bit here. This was probably about 2 weeks or so before the miners started to pop as well. And Bitcoin has gone up much higher than them. And they were still kind of trading up and down a little bit here for about 46 days, so about a month and a half or so. And then they popped, right? Even as Bitcoin didn't pop as much here, they popped a lot harder at that point. Right, you can see huge gains here on this, just with the matter of, well, this would have been, let's see here. We do this from the bottom. Let's just go from the bottom here where the miners go. The miners went up like 200%. Bitcoin at that time went up only like 31% or something like that. So there are these time spans where miners disconnect from the Bitcoin a little bit. They'll trade downwards or sideways while Bitcoin is going up, and then we'll catch up eventually when things kind of maybe reverse out a little bit. Yeah, but that's it. Just be patient out there. These days are rough, I know, but if you have a longer time frame view on things, I think you'll do a lot better. Plus, you'll sleep a lot better. And if you look at these kind of opportunities where miners are going down as buying opportunities, sales, instead of losing money, instead of looking at it like you're losing money, you're looking at it, I can buy more shares at a much lower price. If you look at it that way, I think that also helps. And that way you can sleep a lot better, because I've been in this for the past 2 years, almost 3 years now, 2022, well, 2022, 2023, now we're going 24, yeah, so 2 years. And I've never lost sleep over it. When I saw them going down, being down 60, 80% on some of these guys, it's like, I'm buying more, because that's the best time you can buy in at that point. right? But as always, not financial advice. You guys have to do your own thing. But this is kind of the way I've weathered the storm and had a much bigger time frame to look at. Okay. All right. We'll leave it at that. And then let's get into some of the other stories that we have here. So the first one's going to be on Bitdeer. Bitdeer announces new 4nm Bitcoin mining chip, CL1. And it's offering power efficiency of 18.1 joules per terahash. CL1 tested as exceptionally efficient. Chips need to be integrated into Bitdeer's upcoming Seal Miner A1 mining machines. They didn't state anywhere in here that they're going to be selling those, or are they going to be doing them for themselves? So I'm a little curious there. The other thing is, obviously, this is based on 4nm. They did state that it was 18.1 joules per terahash, but they didn't provide as far as what is the hash rate on those machines, right? No pictures or nothing, anything like that. Cost associated with it as well. It's just basically announcing their 4nm new chips in these machines. They're going to bring them down to 18.1. The AMP miners are still more efficient. They're at 17.5, the newest ones, the S21s. So they're pretty close there, but not quite up to par with the Bitmain machines. Okay, so this is obviously kind of interesting to see how they're going to roll this out potentially, and if they're going to be actually selling these to other miners as well. So now we have competition happening here because we also have Marathon with their Auradine machines that they're backing as well. They invested in those. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, especially as we get into the bull run here. And if these guys can take advantage of it, because if they start releasing these not until later on this year or end of this year or into next year, that's going to be possibly close to peak bull run at that point. And I don't know who's going to be buying at that point. Maybe some people will if the pricing is really good, but we'll have to see on it. Okay. Next here is Bitdeer. Bitdeer announces financial and operating results for the fourth quarter of 2023. These are preliminary results here. They're not audited. What we really want to see is the audited numbers. So unaudited preliminary results. You guys can go through this. I'm not going to go through it too much. Only thing that I really wanted to take a look at here, shares that they're reporting here wasn't too bad as far as dilution is concerned. They didn't dilute too much based on what I can see here. Average cost of electricity was basically, that comes out to be 4.4 cents per kilowatt hour, I believe. Average miner efficiency was 31, so that's still pretty high as of December. 31.7 joules per terahash. We really want them to be probably below 30 come to halving, which is only 40 some odd days away. But I really wanted to take a look at here as far as what the revenues were. And for self-mining was 46, this is for 3 months, yeah, 46.8 million. And revenue cloud hash rate, or cloud hash, I don't know what, cloud hash rate, I guess that's what they call it. 16.2 million. General hosting was 25 million. Membership hosting 23 million. And then I think down here, did they break it out? No, they didn't break it out. But here is the cost. So we do have depreciation, and they're also including share-based payment expenses on here as well. Other cash costs that are being included here as well. I ran the numbers here. And if we look at, where is it? Where is it at? There it is, Bitdeer. If we look at the numbers here, this is how they're now corresponding to as far as profitability. So the profitability margins are down here. Self-mining was at 50%, so that's actually pretty good here. If we look at the numbers that they provided us with down here, let me see if we can do all those. So this is for self-mining. Last time they were at 41%, so that has improved. Once we get the actual numbers, we'll double check this again to make sure that these are accurate. The cloud hash rate was 69% at 67%, so that's down a little bit as far as profitability there. General hosting was 48% in Q3. Now it's down to 29. That's a pretty big drop there. And that's more in line with what I would be expecting, if not a little high here. The 48 just sounded way too high here. Membership hosting was 34.19. Now it's down to 19. And that's also a little bit more in line where I was expecting it. It seems like the Q3 numbers were a little high on all these, which made me question things a little bit more. Okay, but we'll get into all of this once they actually report the Q4 financial year-end results as well. But just want to point that out to you guys here. Next one's going to be on Digihost. So Digihost announces 45% year-over-year increase in Bitcoin mine and provides February 2024 production update. It should be pretty short and sweet. The company held cash, BTC, and cash deposits of approximately 3.9 million as of February 29th. That is an increase from the 3.7 that they held at January 31st. So that's good there. That's going to give them a little bit more of a cushion come the halving event. Plus, if Bitcoin keeps going up the way this is, a lot of these miners are not going to be in trouble when the halving does come around, which is kind of interesting. Which may also mean that the network hash rate at that point may not go down to 10-20% that we're kind of thinking it might. Okay, so that's going to be interesting as well too. Mined approximately 95 BTC. Daily BTC mined during the month decreased by 11% compared to January 2024. On a year-over-year basis, the company increased its daily BTC mined by 45% compared to February 2023, and then spent approximately 1.3 million excuse me, on capital expenditures, mining infrastructure support equipment, energy credits, and collateral deposits, an increase of 333% over January 2024. Other than that, here we go. So presently, Digihost consolidated operating capacity across its 3 sites represents approximately 90 megawatts of available power and is mining at a hash rate of 2 exahash. Part of that is their joint venture here. So let's take a look at the numbers that we do have here for Digihost. And here's what we got. We're still waiting, I believe, on Digihost to report their financial results as well. But currently we have them at 28.6 or 28.7 million shares outstanding with a market cap of about 45 million, stock price $1.59 as of today. Their performance over the last 12 weeks has been, I would say, subpar compared to some of the other miners that we track. From 12 weeks ago, they're up 19% here. From 8 weeks ago, they're up 8.3%. And then last 4 weeks, down 19%. Last week, they were up only 3.68. Current hash rate, 1.24. This is for self-mining. I don't include the joint venture that they're in as well. I got to check on that joint venture if they have controlling interest in that or somebody else does. Because if they have controlling interest in that, they would be actually able to report all of the revenue generated from that, along with all the costs associated with it, at least their portion of it. So I got to look into that some more. Last reported of 19.28 BTC. I think this was on their quarterly results. That's valued at approximately 1.2 million right now. BTC production here, you can see that they peaked in October with 95, which I think at that point I was still including the joint venture stuff on there. Because sometimes it's kind of hard to figure things out if they don't actually break it down. But this time around in February, it looks like they mined about 60, right? They're reporting that they mined here, where was it? 95. So based on this, I'm estimating that they mined about 60 BTC for their self-mining here. Month over month difference, you can see that their BTC HODL is pretty much consistent here. Hasn't changed since, looks like it hasn't changed since April maybe. Their BTC per exahash efficiency has been coming down here, but so has for the other miners as well. BTC sold. I believe they sold pretty much everything that they mined. We'll find out once they report, obviously. And then the hash rate has continued to increase here throughout the year. They were at 7.753 petahash, and then they got up to 1.25 exahash, I guess, by the end of the year here in December, which was nice here. Monthly BTC mined revenue, best month was in December, 3.49 million. And then February was 2.99 million. And I think I'm using, let's double check here. I probably need to write this down up above. I am using the number, that I'm calculating here. So not the number that they reported. So I got a little work to do on this one to figure out exactly how much of the joint venture they own. Hash rate difference, BTC sold value, and then obviously the last 4 quarters, we'll get that updated once they report Q4 and fiscal year 2023 as well. Customized Bitcoin, we'll get into that when they report quarterly. Here, institutions did decrease here a little bit to 25, but shares increased to 3 million from the 2.9. Percentage increase to 10.3 from 10.1. We still don't have any analyst ratings for them as far as buy ratings or price targets or anything like that. And then here's what we have for them. So in February, I had to add about 167,000 in additional BTC transaction fees for them. And that's based on the average that we saw when we calculated the BTC for the month and what we were supposed to get. So that's kind of what we're getting as far as that number is concerned there. And then we had them mining at approximately 27.54 days. So that it looks like they did curtail a little bit here during the month. And that obviously got us to the 2.9. And then we have about 1.7 million in joint venture potential revenue, depending on how much they get of that. Right. So that's it, not being counted here right now. And going back up here, we can see that based on all of these numbers, we got 2.9 over here, which is what we're at. And based on all of this, if we look to the future using the numbers from February for revenue, multiplying it times the 1 month before the halving event, and then 50% after that for the 11 months, we get them at $3.39 to $5.08. They're at $1.59 right now. They are undervalued, in my opinion, but there might be reasons for it. And then they obviously have a PE of 10. They really don't have much growth left in them. We could probably bring them down to about a PE of 5, and that's kind of the way I judge them, right? If they have a good growth ahead, I'll give them a higher PE, and if they don't have a good growth, I'll give them like a minimum 5 PE. Okay, and that would give us to about $2.53 to $3.80. They're $1.59. they're not too far off from it. Their balance sheet isn't too bad here if we look at it. As of Q3, 5.6 million in total current liabilities, and then the total current assets was 3.3. So they did have a little bit more liabilities than they did have in assets. So that's why we really need to see what they report for Q4 numbers. Once they do that, we'll have a better picture of how they're doing, and also what their expenses are like and things like that. So this might be the reason why they are kind of low valued right now. Okay, but that is it. Obviously, with the halving happening in about 40 some odd days, Bitcoin price going up in value, that is going to help them out. It's going to help out a lot of miners actually when that does happen. So might not be so bad for them as well for others, but they really need to grow. It's tough growing when you're that small, especially when you have, $1.59. If you need to dilute, well, basically, what would that be? If you diluted to get at least another exahash of miners, you're looking somewhere around $18 to $20 per terahash. At that point, what is that going to be? $20 per terahash, you need 5,000 miners. I don't know what that's going to be, 30 million or something like that. So you're going to have to dilute basically 15 million shares to do that or something like that. I'd have to run the numbers exactly, but I'm just going off the top of my head. You correct me if I'm wrong on that. Okay, that's it for Digihost here. Let's take a look at Terawulf really quick as well. So Terawulf, there were some questions on Terawulf because they heard that Amazon was buying a facility from Talon where I believe Terawulf is located by. So there was a lot of questions I saw on Twitter and in my own comments. But Terawulf reaffirms business as usual at the Nautilus facility amid Talon's sale of data center campus. So Nautilus is their joint venture with Talon. They own 25% of that, I believe. So that's the way that's working on. That's still all good. So Terawulf today issued the following statement regarding Talon's sale of the Cumulus data center campus and disclosed the exercise of its option to increase its energy resources by an additional 50 megawatts at the Nautilus facility, bringing Terawulf's Bitcoin mining capacity at the Pennsylvania site to 100 megawatts. So that's great there. And then this is a quote. I'm guessing this is from, who's this quote from? Paul. So I extend congratulations to our valued partner Talon on the sale of the Cumulus Data Center campus to Amazon's Web Services, said Paul Prager, Chief Executive Officer of Terawulf. This sale underscores the considerable value of scalable infrastructure with access to low-cost, sustainable power, adaptable for high-performance computing or AI. Okay, so I think, I thought I saw it somewhere that Amazon paid like 600 some odd million for that facility, which is a lot. I don't know how many megawatts are there. If we knew how much it was there, we could probably figure out how much they actually paid per megawatt and see if they overpaid for it or if they paid in line with what we're seeing kind of industry right now. But so good news here that Terawulf is good. Doesn't affect them at all. And then we have obviously their operation updates here. So Terawulf announces February 2024 Leap Month production operation updates. And here's what we have for them. So February 2024, self-mined 364 Bitcoin in February with an average production rate of over 12.5 Bitcoin per day. Now remember, this is also including the joint venture. And they actually broke it down this time. So thank you for them for doing that. That's fantastic. It lets us see things a little bit more clearly. And that way I don't have to try and guess and estimate what they had for the self-mining and for the joint venture. But power cost averaged 13,968 per Bitcoin self-mined. So that's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty low. I think everybody's kind of like above 15, 16, somewhere at 18. But that averages out to basically 0.37 cents per kilowatt in February, which excludes the benefit of expected demand response or ancillary services proceeds. Okay, so they might get some credits for that. Average operating hash rate increased 39% month over month to 7.5 exahash in February. So that's the average. I would like them to maybe highlight this more as a what is actually installed and what should be actually operating instead of the average. Average means basically you had to curtail sometime and then you're using that average as what you were operating in. But they did include it down below, so we will provide that as well, which is nice. The company foresees exiting March with a self-mining capacity surpassing 8 exahash, primarily attributable to the acquisition of approximately 4,000 Bitmain S19K Pro miners in February. I wasn't aware that they did that. I'm guessing that they're providing it here. A portion of which are intended to replace approximately 2,000 Minavera miners deployed at the Lake Mariner facility. I would have liked to have seen also what are the speeds of the miners. Are they 120 terahash miners? Are they 130? What are those speeds? What's the kilowatts on those, or watts on those machines, or joules per terahash? We can figure things out that way. And what did they pay for them? I think that would be nice to know as well. We don't know that. Maybe we'll find out. Well, we probably won't find out until they report Q1 now. But Bitcoin self-mined Lake Mariner. So we do have some of these. What are these? They're not quotes. They're citations basically. But they provide Bitcoin self-mined Lake Mariner. So this is their self-mining facility. 276 Bitcoin, which is great. Really appreciate them doing that. Bitcoin self-mined in Nautilus, which is part of their JV that they're involved in, was 88. And then the power cost here, 13, average operating hash rate 7.5. And then down here, they actually provide what their operational hash rate should be. So operational infrastructure capacity Lake Mariner facility was 160 megawatts, and Terawulf's total self-mining hash rate reached 7.9 exahash as of the month end in February. So that's great, seeing that in here. Construction of Building 4, 35 megawatts at the Lake Mariner facility remains on track to be completed by mid-2024, which is expected to further increase Terawulf's total operating capacity up to approximately 10 exahash, which is fantastic. It's nice to see that they are growing there. And then obviously, as previously announced, the company is pursuing a potential large-scale high-performance computing project at the Lake Mariner site and has committed an additional 2 megawatt block of power to do that. And that is it here. And then if you go over here to the citations, or whatever you want to call those, number one, right? The company's share of earnings or losses from operations at the Nautilus crypto mine facility is reflected within equity net income loss and investee net of tax in the consolidated statements of operations. Accordingly, operating results of the Nautilus crypto mine facility are not reflected in revenue, cost of revenue, or cost of operation lines in Terawulf's consolidated statements of operations. The company uses these metrics as indicators of operational progress, right, which is great, and things like that. But those are not included in revenue, so that's why I try to, anytime I see a company have a joint venture, unless they have controlling interests, which is like over 50% of that joint venture, I don't include that in revenue because that gets included in someplace else, like they're including it here. Okay. Then footnote number 2, footnotes is what I'm thinking of here, includes 0.4 Bitcoin and 5 Bitcoin earned in February and January, respectively, from profit sharing associated with hosting agreement at the Lake Mariner facility. Okay, so they got those from that. And then you got all these other ones here. You guys can read all that stuff here. But number 2 was basically for their self-mining here. So they got or revenue share agreement, and that's what they got. They got 5 Bitcoin for that. Part of the hosting there a little bit. So 276 minus 5 for their self-mining, it should be probably around 271 for their actual part that they're mining for themselves. Okay, so just want to point that out because when we look at my numbers here, you guys will see that I actually am a little bit lower than that. And I wanted to point out why that is. So always read the fine print, the footnotes, and all the other stuff, because that will give you a lot more information here. Okay, now looking at Terawulf. Terawulf has 238 million shares outstanding right now. Right, market cap about 454 million. And I got to take a sip of water. And their stock price is $1.91. Their high here was $4 in the last 52 weeks. Their performance over the last 12 weeks has been kind of similar to Digihost a little bit. They're up 15% from 12 weeks ago, 80% from 80%. 8 weeks ago, 20% up. 4 weeks, they're down 6.8. And last week, they were up just 0.999%. All right, so not great performance here. Kind of on the lower end as far as when we look at the other miners. Current hash rate 7.9, future hash rate 8.4. But they report that they're obviously replacing some miners there with the 4,000 they bought. So that's going to probably lower them a little bit here with the ones that they replace, maybe by about 200 petahash or something like that. Okay, they don't hodl anything. They've been selling everything so they could pay off their debt. We'll talk about that here in a minute. BTC self-mined has been increasing, which is great to see here as well. And then monthly difference on that one, BTC hodl, they don't hodl anything. BTC per exahash efficiency, that's down to 44.08, right? Before they were letting us know just the average. So the average is what their average uptime was and what their average hash rate at that point was. It wasn't based on the actual installed hash rate that should be operating. So that obviously took a hit here this month because we're getting a little bit better numbers as far as what they really should be at. Okay, because when you provide the average, you get a much better score. But we want to know exactly for the months that you're operating, what is that score, right? If you have 7.9 like with them, and you're operating for 27 days, your obviously score is not going to be that great, or it's going to be lower. But that's what we really want to know is, were those machines operating for the full month or not? BTC sold minus self, this is for self and joint venture, 364, right, what they reported. Hash rate combined, joint venture and self-mining, 7.9 self-mined revenue estimated. So I'm using just the self-mined. 13.5 million here in February. Nice increase from obviously from January. And they've been continuing to increase that pretty much since, it looks like September, October, it started to increase, which is nice to see. So that's great. And obviously we've seen the hash rate increase as well. Hash rate difference month over month. BTC sold value for self-mining and JV, 18.5 million. So that was basically the revenue there for the combined. And then also down here, hash rate difference. We talked about that. Last 4 quarters revenue has been increasing. This is, I believe, for self-mining only that I'm looking here. 23.62 is for that. If you include the other things, would be actually higher. If you include all of it, it would be like 43. Yeah, over here. And which one am I using in here? 23 current quarter estimated. Let me see. Where is that being pulled from? December 23. Because we haven't gotten the latest Q4 numbers yet from them. So once we do that, we'll up this. But right now they're going to be about 43 million. And that includes, I believe, just their self-mining. It does. Right? If we included their other miners or other mining here, it would be probably higher. Okay. Let's do that. So we covered that. Going into their BTC per customer one Bitcoin miner's depreciation is about 13.5 for Q3. So it's pretty close to where they are right now. Bitcoin mine quarterly here has been going up and then down a little bit here in Q3. We'll see how Q4 comes out. We'll have to take a look at it. Debt to equity, lower is better. They're at 1.025. Current ratio, they're at 1.1197. And then total current assets, 12.98 million. And then obviously the big thing for us and everybody else here that's kind of investing in them is the debt. So 108 million in current liabilities. At the end of Q3, we need to see an update on that. Obviously, they paid down 40 million of that, of the 140 million that they were due. So I think that's going to bring them down to about 100 million that's obviously due now in this year, at the end of the year. And then if they can pay it down any more from Q1 in this year now, we'll have to obviously wait until they report Q1 numbers. But maybe they'll actually let us know when they do that. And that would be great to see because then that way the interest on that is going to be much lower, obviously. And then if they restructure it, that's going to help them out because right before Bitcoin was pumping to close to 68, 69,000, there were some concerns with them being able to last a while, or at least it's going to be tough for them to get through the halving event with the amount of debt that they had. So we really want to see that debt get resolved or at least extended out, restructured. Okay. Going down over here to institutions and analysts, that increased to 158, so that's good. Shares also increased by about 14 some million. So that's good. Percentage increase to 27. So institutions are buying into them, which is a nice thing to see. We still have the same buy ratings from analysts. 1 strong buy rating, 4 buy ratings, 0 holds, 0 underperforms, 0 sells. Price targets stay the same here, $4.50, $3.70, and $3. So that's fine. That's still higher than where the price is of the stock right now. Going down here, I'm trying to keep track of the BTC South Mine and BTC All for combination of the joint ventures. These miners here, the red ones, are the ones that I'm guessing are part of the joint venture. The ones in black are the ones that I believe are there for the self-mining. And then I also added in, from today's news, the 4,000 that they purchased here. I'm guessing those are 120 Terrace miners, and that gets them about another 480 petahash or so added into it. But they said that they're going to change out some of those Minerva miners. Those, I'm guessing, are going to be over here. When I started tracking them, I couldn't find what those miners were. I just remember them having, X amount of miners, and this is the way I kind of figured it out. So those might be it, potentially there. And then if we look at February numbers here, it looks like they were mining for approximately 27.6 days, roughly. So that's pretty close. They were down for maybe a day or so. So that's not too bad. Added about 1.1 million in transaction fees to them for the month. For self-mining, that basically added up to 839 million. Can't speak. 839,000. Joint venture equated to about 266,000. That got us to the 18.15 million here for that. Self-mining was approximately 13.56, and that got them down to about 272 Bitcoins. Like I said, they reported they got 5 and 0.04 or 0.4 from hosting and revenue sharing or split, whatever they got it on that. So this is probably the number that they would get. So we're pretty close on that one. They reported, what was it, 270? I'll have to go back. 276, right? So I'm down 4. They reported 5, so we're pretty close to it. It's not going to be exact. It's not going to be exact for when they have joint ventures and things like that because it gets a little tricky on that side of things. But we're still pretty close. I'm within 1 Bitcoin, so that's, right now that's valued at about, 60, well, for February it was worth about 49,000. So we're going to be off maybe by 50,000 on the revenue side of things if that all works out that way. Not that one. But that is it, right? The other thing, like I said, was the debt concern here. They paid down quite a bit of it, 40 million before April 1st, which they needed to do, which was great. And then with them making, what are they making now combined here over the last at least 2 months here, 13, 18. So that's 31 million right there. If they do that again, where they get at least another 18, we're looking at possibly around 50 million in revenue here for the current quarter, which is definitely gonna be good. That would give them some, being able to pay down some of the debt here. If we just look at Q3 results for some of the expenses that they had here as far as operation side of things, let's see, operational cost was 19 million. What else do we have here? I'm not even count depreciation because that's not a non-cash expense, but selling general administrative, a related party. I wonder if that's the joint venture there or what that is. I can't remember exactly what that was. Let's just look at self-mining. Well, we'll combine both. So that's 9 million basically their related party. That is a total of 11 million. And then their cost for self-mining, obviously they don't include the cost for JV. But that was approximately, let's see, your cost of revenue was 8. So we're at 20 million. So maybe they can pay down quite a bit here, another 10, 15 million or something like that from Q1 maybe. I'm just doing the math in my head here. But we'll take a look at that once they report the Q4 results and fiscal year end results. We'll get into all this. But I like the fact that they're growing. They're looking to grow to 10 exahash. I do think they're undervalued right now, but that is mainly because of the debt. If they didn't have that debt, they would be in a much, much better position. I think they would be much better valued at that point. So as you can see here, they should be at least 2 to 3x higher from where they are right now, based on the numbers that we see here. Okay, between $4.24 and $6.37. If they can figure, I think maybe once they figure out this debt thing or get it restructured, and it's not hanging over their head so much, I think that's maybe when the stock is going to pop, and it might pop really good. And then if they can obviously get to 10 exahash as well, and sometime middle of the summer or something like that, that would be great. Just need to see them obviously growing as anybody else, any other miners, we need to see them growing as well. But that is it. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Let's take a look at Bitcoin here really quick, see where that's going at. If we actually surpassed 49,000 yet or not. And I got to get rid of this one and that one. And we are at, oh, so close. We're still at 68,348. So we're hanging right there. I mean, we're just kind of bouncing between it. What was the high here? The high was 68,849, about $150 shy of a new high. So we'll see if we can battle through it overnight. If not, I'm kind of expecting it to kind of happen tomorrow, unless we get, rug pulled here and we drop back down to in the 40,000 something to get it. Well, we could get a 20% retracement. So if we get 20%, where would that be from where we are right now? We get a rug pull really quick. If we go down 20%, we're looking at approximately 54,000 at that point. If we go down 30% like we have in other cycles, well, that would be a retracement down to 47,000. At that point, that would definitely be pretty rough on some of the miners here going into the halving event. But as much demand as we have from the ETFs, everything else, I don't really see that happening. We may have a little like a wild wick that comes down and then comes back up. That's the only thing I can really foresee happening. Other than that, I think we're going to continue to kind of go up as long as the demand is there with spot Bitcoin ETFs and people are buying in hands, as fast as they can. But that is it. We'll leave it at that. As always, the spreadsheets are available to my Patreon members. This is my little sales pitch here. That's still $8 a month. If you sign up for the yearly plan, you get 10% discount. And there might be some spots up at the $5 and the $4 range still. And you guys get all of the information that I have in my spreadsheets as well. And why is my camera working? My camera's not working. Well, that's interesting. Let's see here. Does this one work? Oh, camera broke. Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, I can't say see you guys later because you guys can't see me. So, well, I can't say it still, but you guys can't see me. So we'll leave it at that. We'll see if I can figure out what's going on with the software that I'm using here. I just did an update on it today. Maybe that's the reason for it. There's always an update. There's always issues. But yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. We're still battling with 69,000 as the top. Once that gets past that, who knows where we're going to end up at before the halving event. Some are saying maybe we get to 80,000, 85, maybe even 90,000 before the halving event, which would be kind of crazy. But then obviously at that point, none of the miners would be in trouble at the halving. So I don't think we would have any, we would have maybe a little bit of dip in the network hash rate, but not much. Okay, but that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys had a great night. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. Try to be a little bit more forward-looking also. For those of you guys that are obviously feeling the pain right now in the markets with Bitcoin going up and the miners going down, be a little bit more forward-looking. I think that helps. And just know that it's going to take a little time for that to come back up. But we still should have a really, really good year to this year and possibly even next year. Okay. So that is it. Thank you so much for coming in. Hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.